Hey guys, this is Jay Calder with Jay Unboxing here, going over the weekend's biggest fights, including some of the biggest names, the biggest fighters, and of course the biggest matchups, and handing out some fighter grades. And as always, I'm always curious to know what you guys think, of course, down in the comments section below. Do you agree, disagree? What are your thoughts on some of these fighters and their performances? What stood out to you the most? Would love to hear all that down in the comments section below. So some decent action this weekend with Tyson Fury versus Dillon White being the biggest fight, of course. And did you know, and this is some inside information, of course, but 94,000 fans watched the fight at Wembley Stadium in person. I know, no one has said this 20,000 times this week. Still, was definitely a spectacle, and not to undersell that. And we had some decent showings overall, of course, including Fury's brother Tommy on the undercard, as well as former titleist Paul Butler performing on Friday. So no more rambling, we'll get down into these grades. And of course, there's nowhere else to start, but the first fighter we're going to go with here is Tyson Fury, who defeated Dillon White via 6th round technical knockout, retaining his Ring Magazine and WBC heavyweight titles in the process, and the grade that I'm going to be handing out is an A. Effectively, this was a perfect performance. Was it special? No, but it was textbook Fury. Each round, you kind of don't know what part of Fury you're going to get. Is he going to be more aggressive, box a little bit more, throw more combinations, just use the jab? And then even around the 3rd and 4th round, when White tries getting a bit dirty, it really only fired Fury up, and he was more committed to trying to land some more punishing blows as the rounds progressed. And through all of that fray and trying to kind of keep his emotions in check as well as his opponent, Fury still stepped back, set that trap, and landed the one uppercut he threw the entire fight, and ends it right there in an instant. Really hard to knock that performance, which is why he gets such a high mark. Now, of course, the question going forward will be whether or not he retires. Obviously not, but that remains to be seen. Obviously not. And the next fighter we're going to go with here is Dillon White, who of course had the loss to Fury via 6th round technical knockout, did not pick up any portion of the heavyweight titles, of course, and the grade that I'm going to go with here is a D+. So he waited years for this shot, spent millions of dollars by his own account, and proceeded to land less than 30 total punches over mostly 6 rounds of action. That's just not good enough in terms of spirit and will. If you spent that much money and waited that long, you have to be able to put more on your opponent. And quite honestly, a lot of those shots were clipping shots to the body that I'm not saying don't count at all, but certainly didn't seem to slow down Fury any at all. Partly you want to give Fury credit. He boxed brilliantly, set the perfect trap, executed, we move on. That at the same time is just not good enough. White fell into the same trap he always does. He walked right into an uppercut after a mostly wasted opportunity. The same way he did against Joshua, the same way he did against Povetkin. He has not really learned to develop a defense for that kryptonite, for that Achilles heel. And you would think in the biggest fight of his career, they might assume one of the most proficient boxers with a very, very smart boxing brain, you'd think that they'd know he's going to land that shot and that he sees it's his weakness. And to not have anything prepared and just literally walk right into it after a somewhat doldrum performance, he has to get such a low mark, and of course that's why he gets one. Next fighter we're going to go with here is Paul Butler, who defeated JONAS SULTAN over 12 rounds via unanimous decision in the bantamweight division, and the grade I'm going to go with here is a B+. And I mean, considering the circumstances, Butler did what he had to do and looked pretty decent doing it. Kind of looked like the Butler of old to some degree. And I feel bad for him, considering that he has this ongoing drama with Jonrel Casimero, where first because of being hospitalized and then because of his style of weight cut in the UK not allowing him to fight, Casimero has had to withdraw from those 2 fights against Butler, denying him a rightful shot at that title. It's a very frustrating situation for him, and for him to have to face this late replacement opponent could potentially throw sort of a mental monkey wrench in his game plan. Yet he stuck to his game plan. He got hit a bit more than I would have liked to see. That, again, comes with age and slowed reflexes. But other than not really showing anything new, you kind of got what you needed to see in this performance. He moves forward, and hopefully he gets the shot that he probably deserves more than anyone in boxing now that White has been knocked out by Fury. Next fighter we're going to go with here is Tommy Fury, who defeated Daniel Bukowski via 6 points by the referee's discretion in a light heavyweight-ish contest, and the grade that I'm going to go with here is a B-. It was a decent performance. It was a professional performance, more or less, from Fury. And considering the opposition, this is sort of what you expect him to do, win comfortably. But was it anything to write home about? Not really. It was just an okay performance. I think my issue with him, with Fury, is that it just doesn't seem to come natural to him the way that, it does for his brother, for example. He has fast hands at times, or he can have power, but it feels like he has to make that effort. It's not something that's muscle memory. It's not something that comes naturally to him. Over time, he might be able to convert that into muscle memory, but for now, it always feels like a bit of a labored performance from him. He's sort of painting by numbers. It's not just something that comes out of him through feel. And as a result of that, sometimes he telegraphs his shots. He loads up too much. He puts far too much speed into his punches with really no direction or defensive responsibility. And so those are things he's going to have to work on as he progresses, but all in all, not a terrible performance. And the final fighter we're going to go with here is Ivan Zucco, who defeated MARKO NIKOLIC via second round technical knockout in a super middleweight contest. And the grade that I'm going to go with is a C+. At times, he showed some promising stuff, a little bit of speed, and I kind of liked the way that he stuck in the pocket and kind of pulled back for that counter shot. I enjoyed those parts of his game, but at the same time, he overdid it too, and it was what led to him being rocked at the end of that first round. It's, again, against a relatively soft hitting opponent, that's just not something you're looking to see in an upcoming prospect. However, he came back, he fought, he persevered, and finished him in the very next frame, so you do have to like his sort of tenacity, if you will. And of course, now with Billy Joe Saunders possibly retiring and Canelo sort of preoccupied, the rest of 168 pounds is open, and it could at least be somewhat interesting with Zucco in there, as he's a big draw in his native Italy, and he can, of course, potentially help that translate to other areas. At the very least, he's a challenge to other people at super middleweight that might give them a little bit of trouble, and who knows, he might surprise a few people, so he kind of gets that middling grade for that sort of middling performance. In any event, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts and kind of who you thought was the standout performance, some of the grades you had, or if you would agree or disagree with anything that I said, of course. Be sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and follow me on Twitter at jcalderon_JOB. And you can email me at jagonboxing@gmail.com. Love to hear from you there. Also, be sure to check out jagonboxing.com for schedule, results, betting odds, rankings, and more. And check out my predictions. I'll have 2 or 3 of them coming up later this week for the next weekend's fights. You can check those out on this channel here. And as always, until next time.